Some of the most famous photographs in history are not what they appear to be. Some were staged. Some captured a moment that meant something completely different than what the world assumed. Some destroyed the person who took them. A photograph freezes a single instant, but the truth behind that instant is almost always longer, stranger, and more complicated than the image alone can tell you. Raising the flag on Iwo Jima, 1945, Joe Rosenthal's photograph of 6 Marines raising an American flag on Mount Suribachi became the most reproduced photograph in history, inspiring the Marine Corps War Memorial in Arlington, Virginia. What most people never learn, it captures the second flag raised that day. A smaller flag had already been planted on the summit hours earlier by a different group of Marines who fought and died to take the position. But a commander wanted a larger flag visible from greater distances across the island, so a second flag raising was staged for the replacement using a flag found on a nearby ship. Rosenthal did not stage the photograph itself. He simply captured the genuine spontaneous moment of the second, larger flag going up, almost missing the shot entirely by turning at the last second. The persistent myth that he faked the entire scene damaged his reputation for years, despite a Pulitzer Prize and the deaths of 3 of the 6 men in the photograph within weeks of it being taken. VJ Day kiss in Times Square, 1945. Alfred Eisenstedt's photograph of a sailor kissing a nurse in Times Square on the day Japan's surrender was announced became the defining image of American celebration at war's end. The 2 people in the photograph had never met before that moment. Sailor George Mendonça, on a date with his future wife Rita at a nearby movie theater, heard the war had ended, ran into the celebrating street crowd, and kissed the first woman in a white uniform he saw. Dental assistant Greta Zimmer Friedman, who was not even a nurse, simply wearing a white dress that resembled one. Neither consented to the kiss in any way that would be considered acceptable by today's standards, and Friedman later described the moment candidly as something that just happened to her, rather than something she chose. Mendonça and Rita, who is visible smiling in the background of the photograph, went on to marry and remain together for the rest of their lives. Napalm Girl, The Terror of War, 1972. Nick Utt's photograph of 9-year-old Kim Phuc running naked down a road after a South Vietnamese napalm strike on her own village became one of the most influential war photographs ever published, contributing significantly to American public opposition to the Vietnam War during its final years. After taking the photograph, Utt immediately set down his cameras, drove Kim Phuc and other injured children to a hospital himself, and reportedly threatened hospital staff who initially assumed her burns were too severe to warrant treatment. She required 17 surgeries over the following years to treat her burns. Kim Phuc survived, eventually defected to Canada, became a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for Peace, and maintains a close friendship with Utt to this day. The photographer whose single frame changed American public opinion about a war is still, decades later, close with the girl whose worst day he happened to capture. Tank Man, Tiananmen Square, 1989. Jeff Widener's photograph of an unidentified man standing alone in front of a column of tanks the day after Chinese military forces cleared pro-democracy. Protesters from Tiananmen Square became a global symbol of individual defiance against overwhelming state power. Widener himself was recovering from a head injury sustained days earlier from a projectile during the protests, and shot the photograph from a hotel balcony using a smuggled roll of film hidden inside a sock and passed to an American exchange student who carried it past security checkpoints undetected. The man's identity has never been officially confirmed by any government source. His fate afterward remains completely unknown. Theories range from execution to quiet survival to permanent exile abroad. but no credible confirmation of any specific outcome has ever emerged from Chinese authorities or independent investigation. The photograph itself remains one of the most heavily censored images in Chinese internet history, actively blocked and systematically removed by government censors for over 3 decades, to the point that many young Chinese citizens today have reportedly never seen it at all. Saigon Execution, 1968. Eddie Adams captured the exact instant South Vietnamese National Police Chief Nguyen Ngoc Loan executed a Viet Cong prisoner on a Saigon street during the chaos of the Tet Offensive, the bullet visibly striking the prisoner's head at the moment of the camera's shutter click. The photograph won the Pulitzer Prize and became a defining image of the war's brutality, significantly shifting American public opinion against continued involvement. Adams later expressed deep regret about the photograph's lasting impact on General Loan's life, noting that the executed man had reportedly just killed the family of a South Vietnamese officer and colleague of Loan's, and that the single frozen frame stripped away all context that might have complicated the simple narrative of villain and victim it instantly created worldwide. Adams personally apologized to General Loan and his family decades later for what the photograph had done to destroy his life and reputation. Death of a Loyalist Militiaman, 1936. Robert Capa's photograph, appearing to capture a Spanish Republican soldier at the exact moment a bullet struck him during the Spanish Civil War, became one of the most celebrated and reproduced war photographs of the entire 20th century. Since the 1970s, researchers and historians have raised serious doubts about its authenticity, noting inconsistencies in the claimed location and the discovery of other apparently staged combat photographs taken during the same photography session in the same area. Capa himself always claimed he took the photograph almost accidentally, without even looking through the viewfinder as he raised his camera above a trench, calling it the best picture he ever took in his career. Whether the moment of death was genuine combat or a staged training exercise photographed at the wrong moment has never been conclusively resolved by historians, making it one of history's most enduring unsolved photographic controversies. Valley of the Shadow of Death, 1855. Roger Fenton's photograph of a desolate ravine road littered with cannonballs during the Crimean War is considered one of the earliest war photographs ever taken using the cumbersome wet plate technology of the era. Fenton was not permitted by British authorities to photograph active combat directly and could only document its aftermath using enormously heavy and slow equipment transported by horse-drawn wagon across the battlefield. Historians later discovered 2 distinct versions of the same scene exist, one showing cannonballs scattered naturally off to the side of the road, and a second version with the cannonballs deliberately arranged directly along the center of the road itself for significantly greater dramatic visual effect. Which version was photographed first, and whether Fenton personally moved the cannonballs into position himself, remains genuinely debated by historians today, representing one of the earliest documented instances of deliberate staging in the history of war journalism. St. Paul's Survives the Blitz, 1940. Herbert Mason photographed the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, rising intact above thick smoke and flames during one of the most devastating German bombing raids on London in December 1940, taken from the rooftop of the Daily Mail newspaper building, where he was serving his assigned duty as a volunteer fire watcher that night. The image was published the following morning with the caption, "War's Greatest Picture," and became an instant, enduring symbol of British resilience and quiet defiance under sustained German aerial bombardment. Mason took the photograph purely by circumstance during a lull in his fire-watching duties, capturing the dramatic scene from his assigned rooftop post rather than through any planned journalistic assignment or professional war photography mission, making the entirely accidental nature of the photograph a permanent part of its enduring wartime legend. Raising a flag over the Reichstag, 1945. Yevgeny Kalday's photograph of Soviet soldiers raising a red flag over the ruins of the German Reichstag building became the single defining Soviet image of victory in Europe, reproduced endlessly in Soviet propaganda for decades afterward. The photograph was actually staged several days after the building's real capture specifically for propaganda purposes, using a flag hastily sewn from tablecloths by Kalday's own uncle back in Moscow. Before he even departed for Berlin, Soviet censors subsequently retouched the published image to remove a wristwatch clearly visible on one soldier's arm, evidence of likely looting from a German civilian that would have deeply embarrassed Soviet authorities if noticed. The photograph that came to permanently symbolize the fall of Nazi Germany to the entire world was constructed, staged, and digitally edited almost entirely for its intended symbolic propaganda effect, rather than documenting any genuinely spontaneous historical moment as it actually happened. Konrad Schumann's Leap to Freedom, 1961, Peter Liebing's photograph of 19-year-old East German border guard Konrad Schumann leaping over coiled barbed wire into West Berlin, taken just 3 days after construction began on the Berlin Wall, became an iconic and enduring symbol of Cold War defection and the universal human desire for freedom. Schumann had noticed Liebing and several other Western photographers gathering nearby and made his final decision to defect in that specific tense moment, fully aware he was being watched and photographed as he made his choice. He successfully reached the West and lived there for decades, but reportedly struggled privately for the rest of his life, with deep anxiety about being labeled a traitor by former colleagues, neighbors, and family members who remained trapped behind the wall in East Germany. He ultimately died by suicide in 1998, shortly after German reunification, reportedly because he felt his single defining life moment had permanently lost all its original meaning once the wall itself came down. The Hooded Man of Abu Ghraib, 2003. The photograph of a hooded Iraqi detainee standing precariously on a small box with wires attached to his outstretched hands, taken by American military personnel inside Abu Ghraib prison, became the single defining image of the American detainee abuse scandal when it was finally published globally in 2004, alongside dozens of related images depicting broader systemic mistreatment. The detainee, later identified through investigation as Abdu Hussein Saad Faleh, was told by his captors that if he fell off the box at any point, he would be immediately electrocuted by the attached wires, a threat that was entirely false, but one that he believed completely and absolutely throughout the entire ordeal, according to his own later testimony. The photograph triggered a major international military and political scandal, extensive congressional hearings, and courts-martial proceedings against several American military personnel, several of whom served prison sentences, fundamentally and permanently damaging America's moral standing and credibility during the ongoing Iraq War in ways that outlasted the conflict itself. Burst of Joy, POW Homecoming, 1973. Sal Vader's photograph of U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Robert Sturm being joyfully reunited with his family after more than 5 years as a prisoner of war in North Vietnam captured his young daughter running toward him with both arms outstretched, seemingly a perfect, uncomplicated image of pure, joyful reunion after years of separation and uncertainty. What the photograph itself does not and cannot show. Sturm's wife had mailed him a letter just days before his actual release from captivity, informing him privately that she wanted a divorce, having already begun a new relationship with another man during his many years of captivity overseas. The joyful, celebrated public reunion, depicted in one of the most reproduced homecoming photographs in American history, occurred within a private family situation that, unknown to any viewer, was already effectively ending before he even stepped off the plane. Robert Capa's D-Day photographs, 1944. Robert Capa landed with the very first wave of American troops on Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944, taking 106 photographs under direct, sustained enemy machine gun fire. An act of extraordinary personal courage that produced some of the only surviving combat photography of the actual D-Day landings as they happened in real time. Due to a young darkroom technician's critical error at Life magazine's London office, all but 11 of the 106 frames were accidentally and completely destroyed during processing, with excessive drying cabinet heat melting the delicate film emulsion beyond recovery. The surviving images, deliberately blurred and grainy from the processing accident that nearly destroyed them entirely, became known worldwide as the Magnificent 11. And their imperfect, chaotic visual quality actually enhanced rather than diminished their sense of raw authenticity, directly influencing the visual style of the famous D-Day landing sequence in the film Saving Private Ryan more than 5 decades later. Bloody Saturday, The Shanghai Baby, 1937. H.S. Wong's photograph of a badly burned Chinese infant crying alone and abandoned amid the smoking wreckage of Shanghai's South Railway Station after a devastating Japanese bombing raid became one of the single most widely viewed photographs of the entire 20th century, reportedly seen by over 136 million people worldwide through simultaneous newsreel and international print distribution within just 1 month of being taken. The image significantly shifted American public opinion firmly against Japan, years before the attack on Pearl Harbor would formally draw the United States into war. Japanese officials, immediately recognizing the photograph's devastating propaganda impact on international opinion, reportedly offered a substantial monetary bounty specifically for Wong's capture. He was forced to flee Shanghai entirely and relocate his family to safety, becoming one of the very first photojournalists in modern history to become an actively hunted wartime target specifically because of the singular power of one photograph he happened to take. The home of a rebel sharpshooter, 1863. Alexander Gardner's photograph of a dead Confederate soldier positioned in a rocky den at Devil's Den during the Battle of Gettysburg became one of the most reproduced Civil War photographs, presented as an authentic battlefield scene documenting the horror of combat. Decades later, researchers comparing Gardner's full body of Gettysburg photographs discovered the same soldier's body appears in multiple different images taken at different locations across the battlefield, with his position, rifle placement, and even the type of weapon beside him changed between shots. Gardner and his assistants had moved the corpse approximately 40 yards from where it was actually found, propped the body against rocks for a more dramatic composition, and placed a rifle beside it that was not a standard-issue sharpshooter weapon at all. It remains one of the earliest and most thoroughly documented cases of deliberate staging in American war photography.